Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Batra. We are up to Perek Dal Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnah should be Le'ilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbai, Eliyahu ben Burcha, Israel, Ovchana ben Miriam, Sason ben Rayin, Yoshua ben Shifra, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen, Elabdi ben Chaim Lechaim, V'derefua Shenemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, Betor Shachol Israel, and Dachlama Mera Binyamin, Or Tzion Chai ben Dvorah. The final Mishnah of this chapter is a continuation of the previous one. It begins by listing items that are not included in a standard sale of a field. But someone who is selling a field has not sold the detached stones in the field that are not reserved for its use, even though they can be used in the field. Since they have not been set aside for this use, they still may be removed from the field, and therefore they are not included in the sale. Nor has he sold the reeds in the vineyard that are not reserved for its use. Although the reeds may be used to support the vines, since they have not been set aside for this use, they are not deemed part of the vineyard. Nor has he sold the grain that is attached from the field, even though people would often leave harvested grain spread out in the field to dry. Once the grain is cut, it is no longer considered part of the field, and it is therefore not included in the sale. However, sometimes these three items are included in the sale. But if the seller said to the buyer, I am selling you the field and everything that is inside it, then all of these items are sold with the field. This clause includes movable items with some connection to the field which would have otherwise been excluded from the sale. The Mishnah now lists 7 items that are not included in the sale, even if the seller added the extra clause and everything that is inside it. The first 4 items are similar to items listed in the previous Mishnah that are included in even a standard sale, but these 4 items are not included even in the more inclusive sale because they are important due to their greater size or age. Benkach ubenkach, whether the seller included the clause and everything that is inside it or not, he has not sold the thicket of reeds within the field that is larger than a betrova in area, 10 square amot on each side. Nor has he sold the watchman's hut that is plastered with clay. Nor has he sold the carob tree that has already been grafted. Nor the mature sycamore tree that has already been pruned. These items are all significant enough to be considered separate properties with their own identity, and they are not included in the sale of the field. The Mishnah now lists 3 other items that are also not included in the sale of a field because they have the status of separate properties due to their importance. And he has not sold the pit, the winepress, or the dovkat that is located within the field. Ben charevin, ben yeshuvin, whether they are not currently used or they are being used. Even if they are currently abandoned, these items are still important enough to be considered separate from the field and are not included in the sale, even if the seller added the clause and everything that is inside it. The Mishnah now revisits an issue that was raised in Mishnah 2 of this chapter regarding the sale of the house. When the seller sells his field and retains the right to something within the field, such as a mature carob tree or a pit, he needs to be able to get to his property. The Mishnah cites a dispute, which was also cited in Mishnah 2, concerning whether he needs to buy a path from the new owner of the field. And the seller must buy himself a path to get to the property. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Akiva, a seller sells with a generous eye, and he sold his right to access the pit or tree, so he has to buy that right back. But the sages say he does not need to purchase a path for himself. According to the sages, the seller sells with a stingy eye, since he knew that he was keeping the tree or pit and would need a path to it. He kept the right to access it and did not include it in the sale. The Mishnah repeats the dispute to teach that the dispute between Rabbi Akiva and the sages is not limited to the case of a house where privacy might be a factor, but is rather a general dispute regarding the mindset of all sellers. When the contract contains a certain clause, however, there is no dispute. But Rabbi Akiva agrees that if the seller wrote in the bill of sale, I am selling you the field except for these items, specifically excluding from the sale the tree or pit that would not have been included anyway, that he does not have to purchase a path for himself. Since he wrote an unnecessary clause, we say that he meant to exclude from the sale the path that he now needs. And since the dispute between Rabbi Akiva and the sages revolves around whether a seller has in mind to sell generously or stingily, in the opposite case, where the seller is selling the pit or tree and keeping the field, their views regarding whether the buyer of the pit needs to buy a path will be reversed. If he sold a pit or tree to another and retained the field for himself, Rabbi Akiva says the buyer does not need to buy a path to the tree because the seller sold the tree generously and the path to access is included in the sale. But the sages say that he must buy a path to the tree, because the seller of the tree sold stingily and did not include a path in the sale. Now, all of the rulings in this chapter regarding what is and what is not included in the sale of various properties, as well as the dispute between Rabbi Akiva and the sages, apply only to sales. When one acquires property in a different way, however, these rules are different. When were these words stated? Regarding someone who sells a property. But someone who is giving a gift gives all of these items as part of the gift. Someone who gives a field as a gift includes everything in the gift, even important items such as large thickets of reeds or mature sycamore trees. Similarly, if brothers divided and inherited estate, when they acquire a field as part of their share, they acquire all of these things along with the field. Likewise, if someone acquires the ownerless property of a convert who died without any heirs, once he acquires the field, he acquires all of these items along with it. Also, if someone consecrates a field, he has consecrated all of these items along with the field itself. This Mishnah cites a Tana who disputes his final ruling. Rabbi Shimon says, someone who consecrates a field to the temple has not consecrated any items that would not be included in the sale of the field, except for the grafted carob tree and the mature sycamore tree. According to Rabbi Shimon, the mindset of one who consecrates a field is similar to the mindset of one who sells it, and Rabbi Shimon holds like the sages, that a seller sells with a stingy eye. The one difference between a sale and a consecration is that if one consecrates a field, all the trees that are growing on the field are consecrated, even important trees that would not be included in the sale, because they are deriving nourishment from the field that is now consecrated. And trees that draw nourishment from consecrated grounds are themselves consecrated. And that is on the botai of Perek Daled Mishnah Tet. We continue now with Perek Mishnah Aleph. The 5th chapter of this Masechet continues a discussion that was begun in the previous chapter about what is included in the standard sale of various types of properties. This chapter deals mainly with the sale of movable properties. The Mishnah discusses what is included in the standard sale of a ship. If someone sells a ship, he has sold not only the ship itself, but he has also sold the mast, the sails, and the anchor. He has also sold all the things that move the ship or assist in its steering. All of these are considered part of the ship and they are therefore included in the sale. But he has not sold the slaves that were used by the seller as the ship's crew. Nor has he sold the sacks that held the cargo. And certainly he has not sold the cargo itself. Even though these things are kept in the ship and used with it, they are not part of the ship. They are therefore not included in the sale. However, the seller said to the buyer, I am selling you this ship and everything that is inside it. Then all of these things are sold as well. For this extra clause includes whatever is normally kept on the ship, even if it is only on the ship temporarily like cargo. The second part of the Mishnah discusses the sale of a wagon and the sale of the animals that pull wagons. Someone who sold the wagon has sold only the wagon itself, but he has not sold the pair of mules that pull it, provided that they are not attached to the wagon at the time of the sale. If they are attached at the time of the sale, however, then they are included in the sale. But if he sold the pair of mules, he has not sold the wagon with them, even if they are attached to the wagon at the time of the sale. Since mules can be used for riding even without a wagon, the wagon is not included with the sale of the animals unless it is specifically mentioned. The Mishnah discusses other laws that apply to the sale of beasts of burden. If someone sold a yoke, a bar that is used to attach a team of oxen in a row so they can work together to plow a field, he has not sold the team of oxen that use it. And if he sold the team of oxen, he has not sold the yoke that joins them. The Mishnah cites a dispute as to whether the rule that one who sells a yoke has not sold the oxen is always true. Rabbi Yehuda says, Adamim mo'idin. The price tells us what is included in the sale. Ketzad also, Amarlo, if the buyer said to him, Mecholit simdecha b'matayim zuz, sell me your yoke for 200 zuz. He could not have meant to buy only the yoke. Hadavar yadua shenet sebed b'matayim zuz, because everyone knows that a yoke is not sold for 200 zuz. In such a case, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the oxen would be included. But the sages say, the price is not a proof. Sometimes a person will deliberately overpay for something because he wants to give the buyer a gift. Therefore, even in such a case, the sale of the yoke does not include the oxen. And the Rav does tell us, that Halacha does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And that is on botai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.